It was nearly midnight when Emma returned to her apartment after a long day at work. The streets were empty, the city unusually quiet, as though everyone had disappeared. She fumbled with her keys in the dim light of the hallway, already wishing she could be inside her warm apartment, curled up with a book. As she unlocked the door, a sound froze her in place, a soft, unmistakable crying. A baby. But that was impossible. Her building had no infants living in it. The neighboring apartments were all empty or rented to older couples. Emma paused, listening. The crying continued, soft, almost rhythmic, somewhere down the hall. Her heart pounded as she stepped back into the corridor, peering into the darkness. The sound seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. "Is someone—" The crying stopped abruptly. Emma froze, holding her breath. Then a tiny, desperate wail pierced the silence again. It was coming from the stairwell. She swallowed, debating whether to investigate. Curiosity won over fear. Clutching her keys like a weapon, she crept toward the stairs. The building was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, and she shivered despite herself. She reached the top of the stairwell and peered down. The landing below was empty. No baby, no one. Yet the crying persisted, echoing up the concrete walls, louder now, insistent. Emma's stomach churned. The sound was wrong, unnatural. It seemed to pulse in rhythm with her own heartbeat. "Maybe it's coming from outside," she muttered, trying to convince herself. She turned to go back to her apartment, but the crying followed her, louder, closer. Panicking, she ran to her door, unlocked it, and slammed it shut. She leaned against it, breathing heavily, listening. The crying was inside now. Not outside, not in the stairwell, inside. The walls of her apartment seemed to vibrate with the sound, the tiny wails pressing against her ears. Emma's hands shook as she flicked on every light. Nothing. Her apartment was empty, everything exactly as she had left it that morning, except for the sound. The crying continued, coming from somewhere she couldn't pinpoint. She backed into the corner, pressing her body against the wall. Then she noticed it, a small bundle lying in the middle of her living room floor. A blanket, soft and white, twisted into a heap. And on top of it, a tiny pale hand peeked out, fingers curling and uncurling. Emma's blood ran cold. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs refused to move. The crying grew louder, more urgent, high-pitched, almost demanding. She inched closer, the light from the ceiling casting long, strange shadows across the floor. The hand twitched. Then a soft voice, barely above a whisper, spoke. "Take me." Emma stumbled back, heart hammering. The bundle shifted, and she could see the outline of a tiny, fragile body inside. But the face was impossible. No eyes, just a smooth, featureless oval, like wax. The crying didn't stop, didn't even falter. It was alive, desperate, insistent. Her instincts screamed at her to throw open the door and run, but some compulsion rooted her to the spot. Slowly, she reached forward with trembling hands, and the crying changed pitch, higher, sharper, almost pleased, like it knew she was close. The second her fingers brushed the blanket, it stopped. Dead silent. A chill ran through the apartment, and the shadows seemed to grow longer, creeping along the walls. Emma yanked her hand back, but the bundle had vanished. A faint giggle echoed in the corner of the room. She spun around. Nothing. The apartment was empty, silent, save for the sound of her own ragged breathing. Then, from the darkness of her bedroom, the crying started again. Softer this time, teasing, as if it were moving, following her. She ran for the door, yanking it open, and stumbled into the hallway. The corridor was empty, too empty. The lights flickered, and Emma realized the baby's cries weren't coming from her apartment anymore. They were coming from every apartment, every room in the building. The sound bounced off the walls, twisted and warped, like hundreds of tiny wails layered on top of one another. Terrified, she ran down the stairwell, ignoring the pounding of her heart, ignoring the whispering voices that seemed to echo behind her. She burst into the lobby and into the street. The city was quiet, dark, and still again. Emma didn't stop running. She didn't look back. And yet, as she reached the corner, the crying returned, soft and lonely, drifting on the wind. Somewhere, just beyond the buildings, it waited, patient, hungry, and eternal. Emma never returned to that apartment, not for years. And every time she passed an empty building, every time she heard the faint wail of a baby in the distance, she felt it. The impossible weight of something watching, crying, waiting for someone to answer.